Hello and welcome to another edition of the DUALpreneur Virtual Mastermind. My name is Tara Jackson, aka Madam Money, and founder of DUALpreneur, and I am your host. Hey, are you a side hustle superhero? Do you work
Mm.
a full-time or part-time job and you have an entrepreneurial venture? Are you addicted to the direct deposit like me? Do you understand that you need multiple streams of income because you got multiple streams of bills and dreams? Well, that makes you a phenomenal dualpreneur. And welcome to the series. I just want to thank everyone who has supported. I want to give a special shout out to a few people. There is an opportunity to make donations of whatever kind, whether it's $1, whatever, or more. And I want to make a special shout out for those that have made donations to this effort so that we can keep doing this for everyone, right? Because it still costs. It costs money to do live streaming. It just costs money for marketing purposes. And so we just ask for donations to offset the expenses. It's not a moneymaker, but it's important for us to get the information and the experts out to as many people as possible right now because we are hashtag keep dualpreneurs in business. So I want to shout out to Lila Smith, Rona Walton, Kimberly Harris, and yes, our guest speaker today, Nicole, for making donations to help us keep this going for you as long as we can. So I wanted to thank you so much for your donations. If you'd like to make a donation in any of the evites or invites that you get, there is a way to make a donation. Any amount is better than zero. That's all I can tell you. Someone said, I wish I could give you a couple $100. Hey, what you gave me is better than nothing. So I so appreciate all of the support. And, you know, even the people that are helping us in the background with the promotions, the graphics design, setting up the technology. Thank you for helping us to keep them employed as well. Really appreciate you. Are you interested in starting a nonprofit organization? Do you have a philanthropist heart? Do you have an idea to be able to help the community or help multiple people, and you really, really have a passion to start a nonprofit organization, but you have no idea what to do to get started? Well, this is the show for you today, right? I had to call my nonprofit expert sister, Nicole Henderson. So when I think nonprofit, she's the only person I really think about that knows anything that, as far as I'm concerned, about nonprofits. There might be other friends out there, but the first person I think of is Nicole. So I had to call her and said, you know, sis, can you come out and talk to my community for those that really want to start a nonprofit? And she was like, yeah, sure, of course, anything for you. You know, my people love me. And because they love me, they love you. So I want to thank you so much, Nicole, for coming on here, sharing the information to help us to understand what is involved or what does it take to start a nonprofit, and then how can we really get started. So thank you for coming on today. I really, really appreciate I appreciate you for that.
Thank you. Thank you. You
Absolutely.
know, Tara, it's such an honor and a pleasure to be able to be on here with you today. And I've been a dualpreneur for a very, very long time. And anybody who's a solopreneur out there, that is a bad word. So even if you've left your job, you still better be a dualpreneur and have some other things going on while you run your business. And so I'm just such an honor and a privilege to be here. And you know, I want to shout out to you though, because I need y'all to know how fantastic Tara really is. I mean, she is ride or die. I mean, I got to see her recently and we enjoyed each other so much. And you know, it was just about a week or two ago, she put out a post in her community to find out who would be interested in starting a nonprofit. And what I loved about that, Tara, is the people got to be able to dream again. People was able to see, like, you know what? Oh my goodness, there's a possibility. There's a chance for me to be able to do that. And do you know she received not 29 responses? 29 responses from a simple post.
Oh, I
And
received more than that. We received 89.
oh my gosh.
We received
Okay.
89 physical responses, but several other people liked it.
Yeah. Right,
So
right.
we
Yeah,
and
and so that's amazing. So that lets you know that there is a need, that lets you know that there is a market, and this is definitely a niche market. And what I love about what our firm does, our firm is CNH and Associates, is that we help those people have a clear vision. We have what's called the Clear Track 501c3 system, where we walk the clients through the entire process. It's pretty much a done for you program, and we give them that peace of mind, because the paperwork can be very tedious. If you make one simple mistake, it can cost you a very, very long time in getting it corrected. And so we're here to give them the expertise, to give them the peace of mind, to hold their hand and be able to do whatever we need to do in order to get them to the next level. And so I'm here, and I know there's many people, even in our communities, who don't know where to start, don't know how to begin. And a lot of people, they have what's called now a short form and a long form. And a lot of people think that, well, I just fill out the short form. Well, there's certain requirements that that short form requires. It's called a 1023 EZ. And then the full form is called a 1023. But what happens is there are a lot of people out there who fill out that short form, and they don't realize that there are some back end things that needs to be done. And they might get an approval and they're thinking they're done. That's it. No, that's not it. There are certain compliances that you stated on that form, that you have your bylaws. You stated that you have your policies, and you need to know which policies are required as being a 501c3. There are certain required policies that are required by law in order to become a 501c3. Having your job descriptions, having your plans and your things worked out. So many nonprofits just really don't get it. So I just wanted to start out and say thank you to you, and allowing people to dream again, allowing people to see the vision, and letting them know that they do not have to go at it alone. Just to give you a little bit about me and who I am, I've been in this industry for over 26 years. I'm going to stop there. I'm not going to count anymore. I'm going to say 26 plus years. And so we revamped ourselves, kind of rebranded ourselves 4 years ago. And I'm telling you, the way we do it now is so different than we ever done it before. And if you are a small business out there, or you are thinking about a business, I cannot begin to stress enough, even as a nonprofit, how important it is to have a process. You have to have a process. You can't just have a name and EIN and you think you in business. You're not. Even as a nonprofit corporation, you're not in business. So I've been in this industry for over 26 years. And one of the things that I love is being able to serve. I've helped organizations from international and domestic. I've worked with almost 500 organizations, and helping them in one capacity or another. I've helped raise funds for organizations in millions of dollars without the first grant, because the part of the industry that I love is diversified funding. I know you love that word, Tara, diversified funding. And so there's nothing wrong with grants. People think that grants is synonymous with nonprofits. But guess what, y'all? There are 20 other ways that you're leaving money on the table that you're not thinking about. And that's another thing where our firm comes in. Not only do we want to help you start the nonprofit, but we want your nonprofit to be sustainable. So if you are out there and you have a nonprofit and you have no budget or a low budget, or you want to expand your budget, we want you to come talk to us. We want to show you how to create those diversified funding sources where you can raise hundreds and hundreds and thousands of dollars, even millions of dollars without the first grant. I'm not against grants, but I'm definitely about diversified funding. You have to get what we call social enterprise. Social enterprise is earned income. It is programs and services that will help sustain your nonprofit. Guess what? Unrestricted. Unrestricted funds. And that might seem like I'm kind of going deep in, but this is the area that I feel is the most myth. This is the biggest misconception that I think so many nonprofits have. And I want to address that misconception early on before we get in, because I don't want you starting your nonprofit thinking only about grants. Do you know that Girl Scouts of America make over $700 million a year on those cookies? Okay, that is cookies on steroids. Okay.
Can I just interrupt here?
Yes.
On the Girl Scout cookies, y'all. I need y'all to understand they are better than the drug dealers. Okay, because we know y'all know. Go and say amen if you know. You know, in the season of Girl Scout cookies come into play, you probably go fiending looking for the Girl Scout cookies. Don't let the Girl Scout cookies be up in church. Offering cookies. Come on now. That is a very good point that, you know, the Girl Scout is a nonprofit organization, but they don't solely rely on grants. You know, those cookies make them more money probably than what they get out of the grants.
They own their own production. They own the production.
Because can't nobody make do-si-dos like, nobody make Thin Mints like Girl Scouts. Okay, I'm done.
And they go up in price with inflation. And guess what, y'all? Because it's directly related to their mission, it is tax deductible and it's tax exempt. Why should say it's tax exempt? I don't know if anybody taking deductions on cookies, but
wait, hold up. If I buy enough cookies, that's a donation.
It could be, yes, it could. Just people don't usually take it.
Yeah. Watch me, okay.
Let me say, do you remember the Oscars when they had when Chris Rock hosted the Oscars and his daughter, Girl Scout troop came? Do you know they raised, I think it was either $63,000 or $93,000. You better believe that was some write-offs. Okay, that they raised the cookies. So those donations went to the Girl Scout Foundation, and those did literally become write-offs. And so we have to understand we're not just doing this thing in Atlanta. I have clients in over 43 states around the country. We have a 100% success approval rating. And so that means that every person we turned in, we've gotten 100% of people approved. And so we pretty much kind of know what we're doing here. And we would love for you guys to be a part of that and letting us give you that professional consulting and coaching that you would need. I am a sought out speaker. So anytime, if any of you all ever want me to come speak, now I have to say virtually or in person once we get past the sheltering in place, to be able to just share the opportunity with you, to be able to expand your church or your organization or your ministry or your philanthropy efforts, because it doesn't have to be a ministry. There are so many different reasons of why somebody have a tax exempt, and I'm going to get into that in a little bit. But one of the things I want to talk about is when you have a burning desire and you have a mission or something you really want to do in life, maybe you experienced some things. Maybe you might have been homeless. Maybe you might have had some setbacks in life. Maybe you dealt with cancer or things like that. I have people who start organizations for so many different reasons. You know, it could be for domestic violence. It could be re-entry programs of helping people get back on their feet coming out of prisons, foster care programs, clean water. Even the NFL, you guys, the NFL, they still do have a nonprofit function. And so people don't realize that amateur sporting, you can have all the amateur sports, your AAU, those are nonprofit organizations. Those are nonprofit organizations. Anything that you're going to do to even help the burden of government, you know, let's say you want to help the homeless or you want to help children against the cruelty of animals, all these things fall under reasons of how you can, that we call tax exempt purposes, where you can create a 501c3. Now, you can become a domestic or foreign nonprofit without becoming a 501c3, but that determination letter is the one that opens the opportunity for you to get funding and for people to take deduction. They cannot take a deduction unless you are a church. If you are a church, you are not required to file a 501c3. There is a separation between church and state, and the burden is on the parishioner, the member, if their organization is a church. And so the church you can take that tax deduction from the church. Now, there are a lot of churches that are going out and starting 501c3s. I don't recommend it. I recommend that they do not do that. I
So
recommend,
why is that? Why do you recommend that churches do not start 501c3s?
because they're already exempt. They're already exempt based upon there is a document called Churches and Religious Organizations that is put out by the IRS. And what happens is you can file the 501c3, but they don't require you to do your 990 annual filings. But anytime that you apply for something that's government, you're opening up your books and your church to other things that's government. And so what I recommend that churches do is you create a developmental arm that will allow you to have an outreach program that you can get funding for. You know, and a lot of ministries don't realize that. And there are groups out here that are suggesting churches to do this, but if you don't have to, you don't need to. You can still have a 501c3, and you can also have your church. Now, you cannot be a ministry and you're not a church. So let me give, there's a difference between, if there's a church has to have a creed, a doctrine, an order of service, meeting times. But if you're just a ministry, you know, we're the butterfly ministry and we come together and we praise butterflies, that is not a church. That is not a church. Those types of ministries will need a 501c3. So it's important that you do read that document that's given out by the IRS, because I don't want anyone to mistake or misstep anything that I say, but those are the rules and they're backed up by law.
Now, what if the church, so if we have a church and it's a church, can churches still get grants, or do they have to be a 501c3 in order to get certain grants?
A church cannot usually a funder will not give a church a grant money if they don't have a determination letter. A determination letter is what the 501c3 is. Now, if it is a grant that's like a private foundation or something that actually, there are foundations that actually are faith-based and they give the faith-based organizations, they may be able to receive it that way and still take the deduction. But that's why a lot of churches start a developmental arm, an outreach program, and they usually put it in a different name from the church. And so that they can have that determination letter and apply for those competitive funding sources. Because you have some churches who actually have daycare centers, and their daycare center is a 501c3. And so you have some churches that have nursing homes, group homes, facilities. So those types of, or they don't have to be just a ministry base, but you also got educational departments like universities and schools that are 501c3s as well. Ayana said, what is the average cost? I'm going to get into that in a minute, Ayana, what the average cost is of starting a 501c3. So one of the things I want to talk about is you have to start with a purpose. If your purpose or mission of your 501c3 is not a tax exempt purpose, you're not going to get approved. Okay, let me say that again. You will not get approved. You cannot say that you are starting a nonprofit organization to start digging holes in your neighbor's yard and that you're going to get a tax deduction for it. Who are you helping with that other than you and your neighbor? You know, because the thing about it is it cannot inure a benefit to you. It cannot. That's why your board members are not shareholders. They're stakeholders, but they're not shareholders, because nobody owns a nonprofit. I have to tell this to my clients all the time. Well, I don't know who I can trust. Well, it's not about you trusting. A nonprofit is a public trust, which means that it belongs to the public. You're the founder, but you don't own it. And so I tell people a lot of times, if you have a nonprofit and it's a public trust, but you have a lot of intellectual properties, you need to decide if you want those intellectual properties to be under the nonprofit, or you want to create an LLC and have ownership of those intellectual properties. So that's the conversation, because one of our specialties is to help joint ventures of businesses and nonprofits together, and to help them through that process and know how they can navigate together and how they can work together. Because a lot of businesses, once they've gotten to a level of success, they want to have that social responsibility and they want to have that goodwill and being able to give back to society. Or they may decide to become what we call a B Corp, which in Georgia, we don't have B Corps. So it is very important to have a good mission and vision statement. And in that vision and mission statement, it is so important that you make it broad and not narrow. You want your programs to be narrow, not your mission and vision. Because if your mission says, I'm going to work with girls ages 2 to 7 in the county of DeKalb, then that means you can't work with any other population. You're only able to work with girls 2 to 7 in DeKalb County. Now, if I know that my focus is going to start in DeKalb, I would say something, I'm going to work with elementary age children in the greater Atlanta, or I'm going to work with elementary children, or I might just say I'm going to work with youth, because youth is anywhere from 10 to 29. So then that gives you a greater scope on who you can serve and how you can serve. And so it's very important that you don't narrow yourself so far in that you don't give your nonprofit room to grow. Because you might want to extend, maybe right now you're working with girls, but 5 years from now, you may want to add boys. So it's real important that you're really careful and you're clear in how to define that mission and vision. It's so important. And we have that expertise to really help you define that mission and vision and make it very clear, so you're not falling into those loopholes. Now, what is a nonprofit? I'm going to just read the definition that the IRS has for a nonprofit. It is a 501c3 nonprofit. And I need to tell you, a 501c3 is only one type of tax-exempt organization. There are many tax-exempt organizations. They go up to like J, and up to 21. So there are many, many cases of the 501c3, 4, 6, 8. I mean, it just goes on and on and on based upon if you are a civic group, if you're a political organization, if you are a chamber of commerce, if you're a school, if you're a hospital. I mean, each one of those have their own designation. And so the ones that people they're most known for is the 501c3. I do a lot of 501c3s. We do 501c4s, and we do quite a bit of 501c6s. And those are some of your chamber organizations and your civic groups and those types of things. And a C4 is a political organization. Let's say you want to get heavy in lobbying, you want to get heavy in politics, because you're very limited in lobbying as a 501c3. No more than, I think it's 20% of your budget can go to lobbying as a 501c3, or you risk losing your status, and you don't want to do that. And you cannot endorse a political candidate with either one of them. You cannot endorse a political candidate, or you can risk losing your status as well. And so, as I was saying earlier, a charitable purpose is religious, charitable, scientific, testing for public safety, literary, educational purposes, to foster national and international amateur sports competition, as well as the relief of the poor, the distress of the underprivileged, advancement of religion, advancement of education and science, the erection or maintenance of public buildings, monuments, and museums. Now, I want to talk a minute about museums. Now, Tara, when you think about museums, do you think about museums as being a nonprofit organization?
No, I thought most of them are for profit. Well, there are some museums that are,
they're probably all nonprofit. So let me say this: their fee, that's an earned income. You pay to get into the museum. So you pay to get into the museum because you're going to learn about history and culture and those types of things. But what about the gift store? So this is a little nugget, and I'm going a little deeper, but we're not going to go too deep. When you have a nonprofit, there's an indirect and there's a direct purpose to your mission. And so in order to not be taxable, it has to be directly related. if it's not directly related, then you can be taxed for that activity. So you're in the gift store. Is it a bad idea that the museum have a gift store that they can raise money for their museum, even though they may be taxed for it? So let me ask you about the cup. The cup that you're drinking that got Van Gogh on it, is that taxable or non-taxable?
Non-taxable?
It's non-taxable because it's an education artifact.
Oh.
Yes. It's directly related to the mission. Now the chips and the cookies and all that and the food and the restaurant, yeah, those are taxable. But you understand, you see where I'm going with that? But if you got workers in there who came from a population that you serve, now it goes to being not taxable again. And so there's just so many things that people don't think about when they think about a 501c3 organization. Y'all, this is big business. Nonprofit organizations was created for the wealthy. It was created in the beginning for the wealthy to be able to give to the poor, for the wealthy to be able to have tax shelters and things like that. You don't normally hear people say that, but check the history. And so there are millions and millions of 501c3 organizations around the country. But guess what? Every month, the IRS puts out a bulletin of people who get automatically revoked. You know why? Because they're not compliant. They're not filing their 990s, which our 990s is equivalent to a 1040 of our personal taxes. They're not filing that. If you go 3 years consecutively without filing, you're automatically revoked. And all that status that you worked so hard to get, you lose it. And you have to reapply and start over. And so many nonprofits, all they had to do was turn in a postcard and they could have kept their status. So if you are listening to this and you have a 501c3 and you don't know if you're compliant, I highly suggest that you contact our firm and let us assist you with that, because I would not like to see you lose your status. So let's talk about the steps to becoming a 501c3. For those of you who want to become, I have 8 steps here of becoming a 501c3. Also in our Clear Track checklist, we have what's called before, during, meantime, and after in the process. So the before is we get on the phone, we talk, we set up an assessment date, you pay your deposit or your full amount, and then we go ahead and we do your assessment. The during is what we have to do to set your nonprofit up. And the meantime are activities that we give you to do in order to be working on your nonprofit while we're working alongside for you, like making relationships, volunteering your services, defining what your programs and services are going to look like. What is your curriculum going to look like? Have you done any research on the topic that you want to serve in? Are there any state certifications or requirements of what you're doing with that? And so these are some of the things that so many nonprofits don't think about, and they go out and fill that 1023 EZ form and they think they got their status and they're good. But they don't realize there are so many more steps and so many more elements to that. And the long form, you're going to end up turning in about 50 pages. And so it is definitely a lot more to it. But we're here, like I said, to help bring that peace of mind and help them through the process, because we do know what those statutes mean. And so the first thing you want to do is you want to plan what that purpose is. We talked about that purpose. And then you want to form a corporation within 27 months of filing. So what that means is, let's say you started a nonprofit in 2018. Today is now 2020. And let's say you didn't file your 1023 until 2020. As long as it's within 27 months of you becoming a state entity, the IRS is going to backdate your nonprofit back to 2018. And so any activity that you did in those two years, you get credit for. So it's not lost. But if you're beyond the 27 months, whatever that filing date is that you turn in that 1023, that's going to be the date of your entity. And so then you file your 1023 easy, or you file your long form. And even with the EZ, I still put together probably about 30 pages of documents, even for the EZ. So it's not as simple as people try to make it. And then you have to create a narrative. You want to make sure that you have the financials, your bylaws, your minutes, your policies, other attachments that go along with that, your state and local requirements. And then you have to maintain that status. So we talked about maintaining the status. And then there are some disadvantages to having a 501c3. One of them is you're limited to tax exempt purposes. But if that's your purpose, that's not a disadvantage. That's actually an advantage to be limited to that. No unduly personal benefit, no profit sharing. You can't be like, okay, we got a check for $1,000. I'm gonna take 80. No, you can't. You can't do that. You can have salaries though. I mean, one of the things that I give my clients is a CEO classification study. And in that study, it shows all types of nonprofits, from $100,000 nonprofits to $1 million nonprofits, and what CEOs are making. And so it allows you to understand that you can be a viable, sustainable nonprofit organization. You don't have to just be a little mom and pop. Y'all, self-funding is not the purpose of a nonprofit. If you are self-funding, then you are acting as a private foundation. And if the IRS finds out that you continue to self-fund year after year, they will change your status to a private organization versus a public organization. And then if you try to reverse it, it takes 5 years of turning in your paperwork showing that you got funding from other sources to get it removed. So those of you who are self-funding, there's nothing wrong with helping your organization. There's nothing wrong with paying into your organization, but you cannot be the only one. That's the purpose of it, for it to be, for you to reach out to other people. Now, there's memberships, there's dues, there's all kinds of ways that you can raise money for your nonprofit, as well as you can get investment dividends, you can have mileages, you can even take out a policy, insurance policy on your nonprofit and make your nonprofit the beneficiary. So there's just a lot of things that people don't think about when it comes to having that nonprofit. The other disadvantage is the political candidate endorsement. We talked about that, and assets have to be donated to another 501c3 if you dissolve. So you can't just dissolve and say, okay, we're gonna keep this money. No, you got to give it to another 501c3. But the advantages of having a 501c3 is the investment income that you can receive, the charitable contributions, volunteers. You know how many nonprofits have 100% volunteers? They pay no employee taxes, no labor taxes. All their people are volunteers. And then you get to reap, your nonprofit get to reap the benefits of those services. Federal and state tax exemption. In some states, like Florida and other places, they actually have a state exemption. Georgia does not, unfortunately. There are some grocery stores and things like that that will exempt your taxes, and hotels, but a lot of times that's based upon the entity. It's not a state law. Perpetual existence. That means that your nonprofit can outlive you. Susie B. Coleman left here a long time ago. And so the founders of the Red Cross, the Goodwill, whatever your nonprofit is, it can outlive you. It has perpetual existence. Social good, you know, to be able to have that social responsibility, to be able to put your nonprofit in honor of a loved one. Many times somebody may have lost a family member and they want to honor them through that. And then we have to be careful that you don't get in that IRS sensitive third pile. And that's what I call that 12-month review. When you went at it alone, you did it wrong, and it's just sitting on somebody's desk, and they're going to get to you when they get to you. You do not want to file in that category, especially during these times when, you know, they're very busy. They're going to get to you when they get to you. So I know we had a couple of people who asked some questions. Our process that we have with the 501c3, it's $1,600 to do your 501c3, and then your state and federal fee is separate. Usually most states are around $100. Your short form is $275 and your long form is $600. But for anyone who would like to be a part of our process to help them, we do have a special that we're offering through the DUALpreneur, and you would contact us and we'll let you know what that special is. But you'll be happy about it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for those tips, and especially of what's necessary to start the nonprofit. And you gave some great information as far as the good, the bad, and the ugly, and the beautiful with it. I think the best thing, like you said, with, as far as I'm concerned, is the diversification of funding. That you don't just have to get grants, right? A lot of people say, I want to be a nonprofit so I can get a grant. Well, there's more to just getting grants. What if you don't get grants? So, and thank you for bringing up my favorite nonprofit, the Girl Scouts. I've never been a part of the Girl Scouts, but
I was a Girl Scout and a Brownie.
I chase after them chicks. Promise you, it's spring. It's Girl Scout cookie time. Look, I'm quarantined. I don't matter. I'll buy online. I'll cash app, whatever.
I know, right?
So what that lesson is, start your nonprofit and start selling some cookies. Yeah, whatever.
Start selling something.
Right, exactly.
I mean, they don't realize T-shirts, books, all these things are things you can actually, and you're not selling them. You're taking what's called a donation. So what became a price point is now a donation. And so if you go to like World Health Organization and different places like that, they got goats out there. They literally got $1 on goats. Like, you pay $1,200 to get this goat. You pay $200 to get this cow. I mean, seriously, they have a denomination number on, how much it costs to feed a family of 4, different things like that. And you had to create a campaign, guys. I can't even begin to tell you. It's just, we can go on and on and on and on and on. But you can't just go out and say, I'm starting a fundraiser tomorrow, and there's no campaign, there's no logic, there's nothing for people to tie into. It's not organized. Nobody knows when it begins. They don't know when it ends. There's no, you're not sharing your story. It's just so many things. And then you got a shoestring board. Your board is you, your cousin, and your mama. I mean, y'all, listen. We're some real board members.
Not judging. We're just saying,
Get you some real board members. I mean, you can have your mom and your cousin, but you need to have 2 non-family members for every family member, because there is going to be conflict of interest that's going to come up, and you need to be able to have a quorum so that you can have a vote. And I cannot stress enough how important, if you're a nonprofit, you must have meetings. You must have an agenda. You must keep minutes.
Yes.
All these things are compliant issues. I don't care if you don't meet but 4 times a year or twice a year. You have to meet. You can't go all year and don't have your fiscal paperwork, your documentation. Y'all, this is a corporation, and it has to be run like a corporation.
I think if families instead, and I talked about this before about, going to family reunions, if they build a family fund and they invest it and they pull their money and invest it and build that, they can build generational wealth. They can relatively do the same thing and have a foundation or create a foundation for their family, right?
Right. They can put it in a family trust.
Can create scholarships for certain people. And so when you look at it in that way, that it changed your whole dynamic of what you can do with a nonprofit. And I really appreciate that. So Nicole, if there's some people that really want to get started, they want to learn how to work with you, what they need to do, where can they go to get started or have a conversation with you?
Oh, most definitely. Well, they can definitely find me on all my social media. It's C. Nicole Henderson on everything. IG, Twitter, Facebook, C. Nicole Henderson. They can definitely go to my website, which is cnhenderson.com. And they can also schedule through my website, or they can just go to cnhenderson.as, which is AS dot, what was the rest of it? I forgot.
Got it on website. All right. Go to CN.
Just go to the website.
Go to cnhenderson.com. Do that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I done forgot what my scheduling link is.
She is hilarious. Well, thank you so much. I now want to be able to open it up to those that are here. I know that Monique had a question. Monique, did you want to come on and ask your question? I don't know if she's able to.
Yeah. Hi everyone. I'm sorry. My picture is up, but I'm not really going to show my face because I have my bonnet on. But yeah, I
Beautiful picture.
have thank you. I have a nonprofit 501c3 status called Philly Youth. We pretty much focus on decreasing negative stereotypes of inner city youth. But we have this travel program that's coming up, in July 2021, where we're taking youth who come from low-income families to Costa Rica on a 9-day educational tour. Before COVID came about, we were supposed to have like monthly fundraiser events to help raise the money for the youth to travel. But like, unfortunately, with COVID being in the way, we're not able to have those events anymore. So it's kind of like a struggle trying to raise, I feel like a bit selfish, trying to raise money for our travel program, because a lot of people, have lost their jobs, or so I just don't really know how to go about raising money for this program without, feeling some type of way about it. So I just want to know, do you have any tips on that?
Wait a minute. I'm going to let Nicole answer, but I do want to address you feeling bad. Not everybody is financially struggling during this time, okay?
Yes.
There are people that are actively looking for ways to either tie to a church, to donate. They're still working. They're working from home.
Yes.
They still have their entrepreneurial ventures. Some people are getting unemployment and they're doing well with their entrepreneurial ventures because they're getting money in. So I don't want you to feel guilty by doing fundraising, because there are still people who are financially able to do it. There is a large population that are struggling, but that's not your target audience. Your target audience are for people who are looking for the opportunity to give to a good cause. Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that, Tara, because that was one of the things I was going to let her know, is that you got to take yourself personally out of the equation. A lot of times people don't ask for money because they have their own money issues. I'm not saying you got a money issue, but what I mean is they feel like they're asking for themselves, but you're not. You're asking for those who cannot ask for themselves. You're their advocate. And so when you take the approach as I'm the advocate, and just like Tara said, there are so many people, millions of people out here who have revenue, who have income, and who have influence, and who can actually be some of your fundraisers. To me, this is the best time in the world to create those campaigns for that Costa Rica trip. This is the best time but the thing is, I would love for you to do a consult with me so I can help you come up with a good campaign and being able to really give you multiple ways and diverse ways to go after people who you can collect those funding dollars for. Just like right now for me, I may have people that say, hey, I need to put it on hold, but I also got people say, no, I'm ready. I'm ready now. I'm taking advantage of the opportunity to move forward and get this done. So just like you said, you got to find the market for the people who are ready and who want to give. And I'm telling you, the time is now.
Absolutely.
Be encouraged. Be encouraged.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll definitely be reaching out to you for a consult.
Awesome.
See how that works? That's easy. Okay. Cool. Is there anyone else who have any questions?
I do. It's just kind of a term that I've heard floating around, and I haven't really taken the time to study it. But you were talking about budgets, and so what's a temp restricted budget?
A what?
A temp restricted.
Temper?
A temp, like temporary restricted.
Oh,
like
temporary restricted?
Yeah.
What is that in terms to nonprofits?
Yeah.
Who told you that there was?
It's kind of like if somebody gives you a grant, but maybe there's restrictions to it.
Oh, okay. No, yeah, that's not called temporary restricted budgets. What that's called is those are it's restricted funds.
Okay.
That's what they're called. You got unrestricted funds, you have restricted funds. And so there are some funds that if you're getting a grant, let's say that you got a grant to work with girls and girls that are only in elementary school, you cannot use that funding for the girls in your high school program. And let's say you got a program for boys, you cannot use that program for your program for boys because the funds are restricted. But it's nothing wrong with having restricted funds because they can really help fund the programs that you're looking for. But you have to also get these other diversified funding sources to help fund not only that program, but also other programs as well, because a lot of donors want to know, what are you bringing to the table? If you were to lose our funding next year, how can you manage and keep this program going?
Did I ask your question, Ayana? Awesome. Awesome. Well, if there aren't any other questions, if anyone doesn't have any other questions, you did an awesome job answering those. And if you are watching it or watching the replay, please put your questions in the comments below, and see Nicole will answer them. She is a part of the DUALpreneur family. So make sure you do that and reach out to her. Definitely see Nicole Henderson, or excuse me, cnhenderson.com, right? So again, thank you so much, sis, for sharing that information and sharing your expertise. Y'all, she's giving a DUALpreneur discount. I have no idea what that is, but yeah, they keep giving y'all.
It's a hefty discount.
Wow.
Hefty.
Almost makes me want to start a nonprofit just to see what the discount is. But before we head out, I want to thank everyone for watching and for sharing sharing the information out and tagging people that you know have an interest in starting a nonprofit. But before we go, I want to give the ladies the opportunity who are bold enough to show their beautiful faces online, to do that.
Oh, nice.
Have the same last name. Oh, that's cool. Have the opportunity to share their business. So, Ayana, we're going to keep you for last so you can show the world how awesome you are. But definitely, Miss Jacqueline, please share us who you are and your superpower.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jacqueline Harris, and I am just everywhere. I was mentioning to Tara earlier, my grandson's favorite saying is, Nana, you're always working. But that's because I'm always helping. I'm working with, besides in the faith community, I also have, I'm an entrepreneur. I have a small business. I have, no, not a small business. I have a business enterprise. And as well as I work with nonprofits. One right now, PAIRS, People Empowerment and Renewal Services, working to build with them. So thank you very much, C. Nicole, for the information that you gave. And I will be giving you a call because I got some other questions to help us to continue with the work, building the communities that we serve.
Amen. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And Ayana, tell the world who you are.
Hi, everyone. So my name is Ayana Mayer, last name Henderson, but I go by my first and middle name. My business is the Capacity Coach, and I run a tribe for women, and there's two parts to it. The first part is when she shows up, and it's about women really taking ownership of who they are and what they bring to the table. And the second part of that is when she leaves, and that's about finding her lead her ship. I'm so excited about that. So I inserted the word her in her leadership, because once she finds her voice, using it in the most effective way. So it's kind of opening up their own personal Wonder Woman inside and really bringing her out and bringing her to the table.
And Ayana, I really do see a nonprofit arm to that.
Yes,
so,
yes.
Because definitely. There's a lot of outreach that can go. There's definitely a for-profit coaching opportunity there, but there is so much opportunity for a nonprofit and outreach for that, where you can get significant amount of diversified funds that are, what was it called again? It was the two different types of funds.
Oh, direct and indirect.
No, the other ones where I have to do
Oh, the restricted and unrestricted
restricted and
Oh,
funds.
restricted and unrestricted.
right.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, I see opportunities where you can get you can get restricted funds, but you can get some unrestricted funds
Yes. Hmm.
for that as well. So definitely reach out to those. The other young ladies who are protecting their beauty behind their pictures, we respect that. I do, but I want to give you a shout out, Monique, Beth. Thank you for coming in, and Victoria. Thank you for hanging out. Look, everyone, I really appreciate everything that you are doing for the dualpreneur community. Help keep dualpreneurs in business. Make sure if you have any needs, business needs or whatever needs, you look into the community first to see who may be able to assist you with that. Buy from them first, buy from each other. That is the most important thing. And hopefully these virtual masterminds are going to help you to improve your position to make more money and to fulfill your lifelong dream, whether it's to be a full-time entrepreneur, whether it's to be a dualpreneur forever, or whether it's to stop working altogether and retire early.
Yes. Yes.
You get to define that. So I want to thank you so much for joining us. I love you. Oh yeah,
Love
I forgot to
you.
introduce me. How
Yes.
did I do that, right? My name is Tara Jackson, aka Madam Money. You probably know me as a financial commentator, and I do that in speaking engagements. But what you didn't know, or you probably do know, is that I own a website company called SRJ Websites. It's named after my mother, my grandfather, and my grandmother, Stephanie, Roger, and Jean. And what we provide are website services and other business solutions and coaching solutions. I believe that every small business, regardless of size, should be able to look like a Fortune 500 company. And so I make sure that you have the presence online that your business deserves because it's your caliber. And so I look forward to serving you. If you need a website, you need one designed, developed, redesigned, or you need maintenance of a WordPress, I would love to be able to serve you. If you'd like to have a conversation about that, you can go to my website, srjwebsites.com. Scroll all the way down to the bottom, and you can schedule consultation. It's a great conversation, no cost for you. Looking forward to reaching out to you. Now, I love you, and there's nothing you can do about it. And don't forget, everyone, come on, Ayana, wash them hands.
And
We'll see you next time.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.